Hey guys, it's Mike from That School of Vintage Collectibles, and I thought it was about time for a room tour. So let's go on into the cabin and I'll show you. So my collection is housed in a restored 1830s log cabin, and this is the location for where I keep all of my stuff, and it also doubles as my workspace. So we'll go on in and have a look. This is the room where I keep all of my collection. It's also the room that I work out of. I'm a musician and a music teacher, so I teach out of this room as well. And I also use this as a recording studio. But it's an old log cabin that we've turned into our space. So when I started this channel, I just wanted to share my collection and to connect with other collectors and also document where I got things. So I had a bit of a record of where this stuff came from and the stories behind it. And it's been really cool. I started in late December and it's now early April. So we're kind of about 4 months in, and I'm really liking the way it's going so far, and I'm able to connect with other collectors, which is great. So it's pretty cool, and I thought a good way to share sort of how I collect things would just be to show you how I set up my space, and you can see how I display things, and maybe get some ideas for how you're going to do things, and likewise maybe give me some ideas that might look better than what I'm doing here. So this is just a quick overview. I'm going to do individual videos on almost everything in here, because almost everything has a story and a bit of a history to it, and I like collecting a whole bunch of different variety of things, so there's all kinds of items in here. It's not just sort of one thing on this channel. It's going to be, well, everything that you see in this room. So I hope you enjoy this. It's going to be a bit long, but I'm going to show you a brief room tour of everything in here and, give you an idea of the types of things I collect. Okay, so starting in this corner, I don't know where to start really. There's a huge RCA sign in the background there from the 1920s. This is a signed Bob Feller photo. This case is early items. There's a magazine back here from Charles Dickens from the 1870s. Some RCA Victor stuff. There's a Roman coin. I just did a video on some bullets from the battlefield in Gettysburg. That's an old pipe, that lion. And some tobacco cards from the turn of the century in there as well. In this down here, this is a 1949 RCA Victor 45 player, the first one ever made. And right here I have my RCA Victrola next to that. Below here these are all signed books, and there's some sports cards, signed sports card stuff there as well, but these are all autographed books. Over here, just more autographed books and rare books and CD box sets. There's some vinyl records down there, and over here behind these guitars there's music programs and 78s. In front of here we have 4 interesting guitars, Tiesco, a Hofner, a Silvertone, and a Dan Electro. Some weird 60s guitars there. Down here is sports cards and sets. Up here is the first 12 Star Wars figures, plus some other Star Wars collectibles on that shelf. I'd have to really go into that. I'll do separate videos on all of this. This is vintage 80s toys and comics, which are kind of from my youth. These are all sports card binders for the most part. There's a few that aren't, like that one is all ticket stubs, that one is all autographs, and that one is unlabeled, but that's all music flyers and handbills and stuff like that. This is baseball sets, and this is O-Pee-Chee hockey sets from 1980 up to 1994. This is a signed Les Paul photo. We've got some comic books and original Batman cards there from the 60s. Above the door, the one on the left is Iron Maiden. The one on the right is Deep Purple. This is a John Lennon War is Over t-shirt. Going up my stairs, signed photos. Big Brother and the Holding Company, Tom Petty, Ian Hunter, Steve Earle. And upstairs is this storage space. More collectibles up there that I can't fit down here. As I back up across the top, signed Beach Boys, Buddy Guy, AC/DC, and Motley Crue albums. That is this corner. And in this corner we have more guitars and a sitar, and this is a bass drum from the 1880s, would be more like a parade drum, and a life-size Elvis statue, an original 1956 Shure microphone. Back here is CDs and CD box sets. That's what's kept back here. Bob Dylan autograph and a Wurlitzer Music Gruen Guitars hat, and that is probably the oldest music store sign in Canada, 1880s. And above that, autographed albums from Cream, Aerosmith, U2, John Mayall, Long John Baldry, and in front of that one, it's a big long lineup up here, but it's Robert Cray, Sammy Hagar, some of the members of the Grateful Dead, David Bowie, Mick Fleetwood, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, DJ Fontana, who was Elvis's drummer. That's a signed Oasis set list. Stephen Stills, Alex Van Halen and David Lee Roth on that one. Neil Young, Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland of the Police, and Ray Manzarek of the Doors. I have these shelves across the back wall here, and this is some stuff up here. We got a signed Velvet Revolver, except Scott Whalen. He would not sign that photo, unfortunately, so I don't have him. Ronnie Wood, Ray Manzarek, Van Halen Backstage Pass from 1984. Down here we have some NHL stuff. There's a Gretzky rookie card in there. It's a New York Rovers program from 1939. I think they became the Rangers. This might be wrong there. Montreal Canadiens. There's some signed Chicago Blackhawks stuff back there. And in this cabinet, this is all about original drawings. So these are artist drawings from Disney artists and Bob Singer, who drew Fred Flintstone. Thanks, Bob, for that one. Down below here, some more signed hockey stuff. And in the bottom of this one, some baseball stuff. There's original early baseball card boxes and some Blue Jay stuff. There's some game balls down there and things like that. There's an old Babe Ruth book right there as well, which is pretty cool. And a World Series program from 1992. And in this center column, we have signed Harlem Globetrotters basketball. We've got some Elvis stuff here. There's an original Sun Records Elvis. I got to play Elvis's piano in Nashville. That's what that is. Signed Scotty Moore as a backstage pass from Dallas in 72, I believe. And some Elvis trading cards from 1956. And down here is all about the Miracle on Ice, and this is the 1980 Olympics in Lake Placid, some stuff from that. And below that is just a bunch of vintage magazines and paper Affirma stuff, photos and things like that. So that's what's all down in that part. In this side, we've got a guitar in front, and then this is a signed Dan Marino photo and a Miami Dolphins display. I'm a Dolphin fan. And in here is some vintage baseball. There's a lot of signed Hall of Famers in that box there. And some Gowdy stuff. This is Mickey Cochran, I think that's 1933 Gaudi set. Um, George Brett, autograph baseball. Ted Williams from 57, and that's an 1888 Old Judge. Gus Elbert card, another game ball I got at a game. Monty Irvin's signed photo back there. There's some other signed photos in behind that one. And that's the first ever Sports Illustrated magazine from 1954. And the baseball cards are inside that. That came with that. This is a Detroit Red Wings display. I'm a huge Red Wing fan. There's signed stuff in here from Gordie Howe, Nicholas Lidstrom, Steve Yzerman, Norm Ullman, Alex Delvecchio, Ted Lindsay, Dylan Larkin, Henrik Zetterberg, Red Kelly, Sergei Fedorov. That's another Gordie Howe. That's a bunch of signed Red Wings stuff in there. And I'm also a New York Yankees fan. And in here is an old 1951 program. There's a 77 World Series press pack. There's a baseball from Derek Jeter, a signed Whitey Ford. It's a ticket stub from when Jeter passed Babe Ruth that game against Boston for all-time hits. That's the old tall boy Mickey Mantle back there, and I've got a couple of old Yankee baseball magazines from the 50s in behind there, and a picture I took at Yankee Stadium one time. That's what's in that display. Okay, moving along to this side of the cabin. This is an original Festival Express poster, and that's out the back into the forest. Up here, Alice Cooper signed photo. It's an old vintage ball glove that used to belong to my grandfather, and a ball that my daughter got at her first Major League Baseball game. This is a poster from the Mariposa Folk Festival in 1966. Great old poster. An original 1950s New York Yankees pennant back there. A couple of vintage comics there. I love the monster and horror comics like this. I think they're pretty cool. It's a picture of Les Paul signing my photo that's over there. A couple of vintage monster trading cards. This is where my stereo sits. B.B. King display. I did a video on that one already. Back down here is some of my record collection and where the stereo sits. This is Z backwards through to halfway through the letter R, I believe. Alphabetical. There's my turntable. And a 1930s Lone Ranger guitar. Sorry, the light's going to make that difficult. Pennant from Nashville. Some more guitars here. And behind the guitars, an original poster to Woodstock. This actually hung on the fence at Woodstock during the festival. The Beatle cutouts from A Hard Day's Night when that was re-released in the 80s on VHS. And that is a game sheet from a Braves White Sox game, which is pretty cool. More signed records across the beam. This is the band, except Robbie Robertson did not sign that one. Jeff Beck, McKenna Mendelsohn Mainline, and Paul Rogers from Bad Company and Free. This is a Red Wing stick signed by Marcel Dion. And over here, John Hammond, John Fogerty, and a couple of great power rock bands of the late 60s, early 70s. I always loved the way Leslie West played guitar in Mountain Man. He was good. Over here, we have W.C. Handy, founder of the blues, and this is actually autographed in 1945. That's one of my absolute favorite pieces. Down here, some stuff from Judas Priest. A couple of guitars on here. Blackboard Jungle, this is the original movie lobby card. That's what that is. Little AC/DC display. Original Def Leppard tour hat from the early 80s. And some other guitars. And this is a piece that Tragically Hip gave me. This is the cover art to In Violet Light. And a picture of Rob and I right there. cool other stuff. Okay, over here is more records, and on top of this is some display cabinets. I've got a bunch of Woodstock stuff in here, including an original program, ticket stub, brochure, and some pictures when I visited the site, which is kind of cool. That's the Beatles Butcher album, and some other cool stuff on the wall here, including Chuck Berry signed album and some other autographed albums. There's a bunch of backstage passes and guitars, some signed stuff, chess records and things like that. Oh, I've got a guitar off the wall there, I see. And there's some of Paul McCartney's band, the Zombies signed that stuff. There's some stuff from Rush, which is really cool. And down here, a little bit of stuff from when I went to the Grand Ole Opry, and some vintage comics under there. Under my studio desk is some more sports cards, and then a whole pile, about 1,045s and bins under there, which is kind of a lot of stuff. Nice old Gibson Les Paul and a 51 Gibson guitar amplifier to go with that. There's more records over here. And this is a bunch of rock and roll items in here. There's a whole bunch of things on these shelves. I'll do a video on all of this. This is all Beatles stuff here. But there will be a full video on all kinds of stuff that you're seeing in these as we go. But this is just rock and roll stuff. All kinds of rock and roll stuff. And some RCA stuff up there, vintage RCA stuff I like a lot. Some other rock and roll stuff. Some Aerosmith stuff in here. More records down that side. And, oh, there's my finger, sorry. Over here is amplifiers. And more rock and roll items up here. There's some Guns N' Roses stuff. Guitars. Just more of the collection. More items that are things that all have a story, and I'll be telling you about all of this stuff as we go. So there's a brief little room tour of my collectibles room here in my cabin, and it gives you a little window into the types of things that I collect. Everybody collects a little bit different. I'm a bit scattered in my approach to collecting. I like all kinds of things, and there's items that come and go, and some that I'm super attached to, others that I'll end up moving on down the road. But everybody collects a little differently, and everybody displays their things a little differently. I will say that in my house, there's none of my collection. It just stays in this room, and everything is completely contained. And if it doesn't fit in here, I either have to move something along, or I don't keep it. So that's kind of my approach to collecting as well. It keeps it under control and in one place. But it's fun. It's great to come out and have a place to hang out with a lot of, for me, it's a lot of memories. I look around, I see either an autograph or something, and it's an event I was at, or I met somebody, or just brings back memories of doing something at some point. So for me, it's a great place to go and just kind of reconnect with things that I've been able to experience. So it's a lot of fun. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed having a look through the collection. And on this channel, we're going to feature everything in here and stories about how it got here and all that. So I hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Keep on collecting.